Right, I'm going to get started. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shweta Arya, and let's see. Lisa, can you also start the recording?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shweta Arya. I'm the Outreach Director for Delaware Interfaith Power and Light, and we would like to give you a warm welcome for joining us for our monthly webinar series. We started this webinar series last year due to the pandemic, and this has been a great tool for us to engage people and bring some great speakers to you and talk about climate and solutions, most importantly. So happy Earth Week, everyone. And so it's Earth Day for us every day here at DeIPL. We are also celebrating Faith Climate Action Week with National Interfaith Power and Light, which is our parent organization. So National Interfaith Power and Light started 2 decades back, and our shared and our shared mission is to inspire and mobilize people of faith from interfaith communities and community partners to take a bold and just action on climate change. We understand the urgency of climate crisis, and we want to bring together people of different faith groups to really act on climate change, as it calls for it. And before I get started, just wanted to go over some housekeeping rules. If you want to keep the use the speaker view, you can use that. If you go to the right corner of your screen, you can use the speaker view. That way you get the best experience. And please mute yourself if you can, so we don't have any background noises. And if you have a question, please put that in the chat. All right. So how we serve our congregations is through our programs, our education and outreach and advocacy. And we really want our congregations to be models for sustainability. And this is how today's program will flow. We are going to start our program with a land acknowledgement, and we have our a special guest, Ruth Ann Purchase from the Lenape community. She's the Cultural Mapping Program Manager from Village of Fork Branch in Delaware, and she facilitates Lenape cultural retention and public education. And she will just take a few minutes here to do the land acknowledgement before we start our Sacred Grounds program, to pay our respects to the original people of Delaware. So I would now invite Ruth Ann Purchase. Ruth Ann, please take it away.
Wanishi, welen kuntuakan, oknulam hitawananak, kike yuyem naning kake. I'm just greeting you in the Unami Lenape language, which is the language of the original people. And I just said, hello, I welcome you in peace and friendship, and all my ancestors and all their relations welcome you. So that was my greeting in Lenape. And now I'd like to say a short form of land acknowledgement and then read a more formal educational form of land acknowledgement. And if you'd like to learn how to make a land acknowledgement for the place where you live, we can chat about that later, and I'll put my contact information and a link in the chat room. As we gather today on Lenape land, we acknowledge the Lenape people as the past, present, and future caretakers of this, their ancient homeland, Lenape Hoking. And now I'll read a longer version.
For
which
this
was,
project, we are making a 5 by 7 inch map.
oh,
However,
I'm sorry. Technical glitch. I think I'll read that longer version in a few minutes. It is an educational piece. So Shweta, why don't we look at the video from our elder Chief Quiet Thunder, who recently passed over, but we're very excited that he allowed us to create this little video collage of his worldview about our relationship between humans and the earth.
Shweta, there's no volume.
It's only a minute and a half, so it's really worth the investment.
Shweta, you may need to unmute yourself so we can hear it.
Algonquian family tree of languages. Encompassing the Delaware River Basin, Lenape-Hoking includes present-day New Jersey, most of Delaware, the eastern parts of New York and Pennsylvania, and it was home to 20,000 Lenape in 3 clans. The Wolf Clan in the mountains speaking Munsee dialect, the Turtle Clan along the rivers speaking Unami, and that's the language I've been studying, and the Turkey Clan by the big waters speaking Unalachtico, which has in modern ages melted into the Unami language. So there's only 2 spoken right now. Within the first 100 years of foreign contact, 80% of the Lenape had died from violent conflict and disease, 80%. In spite of the famous treaty between William Penn and Lenape Chief Tamanend at Shackamaxon, Europeans forced the Lenape westward and northward to Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Ontario, where there are many Lenape descendants living today under the name of a British general, Thomas West, Lord de Delaware, now pronounced Delaware. But some never left, hiding in plain sight as keepers of the land. The Lenape Indian tribe of Delaware based in Cheswold, the Nanacoke Lenni Lenape tribe in Bridgeton, New Jersey, the Ramapo Lenape Nation in Mahwah, New Jersey, are 3 of the thriving Lenape communities today. And there are many other communities. But today, let us honor the historical and ongoing presence of the Lenape and the Nanacoke on this land where we now live and work and celebrate all our relations. So I want to thank Chief White Otter Coker for helping develop this land acknowledgement. And I would like to say the new one they're working on with the University of Delaware will acknowledge very specifically in legal terms. And that's a whole nother process. But for our purposes, we just want to say where we are, where we live, and unerase a beautiful cultural heritage that had the earliest settlers honored, we would not be in so many crises that we're in today. So with that, I'm going to let Chief Quiet Thunder share for just a minute and a half about the worldview of human and earth interconnectedness.
Still doesn't work, the volume.
I'm
Is
just
the
going
volume
to
working?
I'm just going to tell you what he says. He's saying that the original people learned everything from nature, and they imitated the ways of the natural world. And they believed that every life was sacred and interconnected. And they believed that if they look into creation, they considered a creator created all life. When they looked into that creation, they could learn everything they need. And that is where they get their original instructions. Their original instructions for life and for culture came from nature, their first teacher. So if we honored this way of being, the world would be in a very different place today. And so by honoring the Lenape, we now align ourselves with a very deep and ancient way of being together with all our relations. One thing Chief Quiet Thunder says really beautifully in this little video, and we can put the link in the chat room so you can watch it at home. He says, man is not superior to that which he depends on for his very life. Man is not superior to that which he depends on for his very life. And so we walk with gratitude. And I want to thank Shweta and all the amazing people with the Interfaith Power and Light and the National Wildlife Foundation and all the work to protect sacred places. Wanishi Wemi, Wanishita, Kike Yu Yamanane Kake. Aho.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and that was really beautiful. I think that's the right way to start this program. So thank you so much for spending. And now I would quickly like to share the and I think I went over the flow of the program. So next I would like to invite Natalie Cohen from National Wildlife Federation. She will give an overview of Sacred Grounds program, what's going on nationally, and what does it entail for our congregations here. After that, I will invite two of our pastors that we are working really closely with our Trolley Square project. They'll share their vision for Sacred Grounds on their congregation's ground, Reverend Shada Sullivan and Reverend Jason Churchill. And last but not least, we will hear from Linda and Becca from Good Shepherd's Garden. They'll talk about their faith-based community garden. It's an amazing story, and I hope you all will love it as much as I did. And in the end, we can take some questions. So with that, I will invite Natalie Cohen. So before I do that, I just want to share something about what's going on with Sacred Grounds right here in Delaware. So we have been kind of working on Sacred Grounds program since last year. I personally am a gardener, so this program is really special to me, and I am a trained Pennsylvania master naturalist. You know, it's just I garden with lots of natives myself, and just thinking about the possibilities for this program in Delaware, right? So we were kind of looking at the numbers, and just in Wilmington area alone, we have around more than 200 houses of faith. So now think about statewide and think about nationwide, how much land do we have that we can create more pollinator habitats, we can create more community gardens, you know, how much difference can we make? So we are really excited and thrilled that we found a partner with National Wildlife Federation, and we have great partnerships with local organizations. Now we're trying to build Delaware Nature Society, Delaware Center for Horticulture, UD Extension. So we can provide all these resources to our partner congregations to, if they want to turn their grounds to sacred grounds. So now I will invite Natalie Cohen to take it away from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Shweta. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here today. As Shweta said, my name is Natalie Cohen. I work for the National Wildlife Federation in our Mid-Atlantic Regional Center. I am the Conservation Programs Coordinator. And so I do a lot of on-the-ground programming and partner coordination and grant writing, mostly around urban conservation and restoration efforts with an equity and justice lens. So really trying to incorporate environmental justice practices into our outreach and our engagement. I have been with NWF for a little over a year and a half now, and I live in Baltimore City. I am a Baltimore City master gardener, and I love native plants and sustainable landscape design and gardening and community green spaces. And just a little more about myself, before working with NWF, I worked at a church in East Baltimore where I led environmental education programming, and I ran a free after school program, and I managed a community land trust that had a prayer labyrinth for meditation and prayer, all sorts of amazing things, and a rain garden and a vegetable garden. So Sacred Grounds is near and dear to my heart. And I manage the program for the Mid-Atlantic. So I have a presentation that I have prepared. So I'm going to share my screen in just a second. You would think by like a year now I would have had this all down pat, but here we go. Okay, how does that look? I can't see anyone, so if someone could unmute, then okay, fantastic. So I am here to tell you all about Sacred Grounds with the National Wildlife Federation. So a little bit just about NWF. We are one of the oldest and largest environmental nonprofits in the country. Our motto is uniting all Americans to ensure wildlife thrive in a rapidly changing world. And so our mission really is all about, you know, the idea and the belief that in order to save wildlife and ourselves, we need to ensure that all people have access to clean air and water, safe communities, easy and equitable access to nature, which has been so important in, you know, in the time of COVID, and protection from the ravages of climate change. And so we have Ranger Rick, which some of you may know from your childhood. And it's, you know, kind of, I've been in the mascot, I've been in the raccoon costume before. We have 7 regional offices throughout the country. Our headquarters is in Reston, Virginia, and my office, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Center, is in Annapolis, Maryland. And we have affiliates in all 50 states. And so the Delaware Nature Society is our state affiliate for Delaware. And we're partnering with them on the Sacred Grounds Initiative. So Sacred Grounds works with houses of worship to create, to create wildlife habitat on their grounds, but also to educate and engage their congregation and really make that connection between faith and environmental stewardship. Really the key tenets of Sacred Grounds is creating a native plant garden, whether that's a pollinator garden, a rain garden, or, you know, just like some, if you're in a quite urban setting and don't have a lot of space, we, you know, container gardens as well. And so we also want to engage the broader community, because oftentimes houses of worship serve as community anchors, and they're trusted, and they have the ability and the power to really disseminate this environmental ethic throughout their community. And so during our time running Sacred Grounds programming in Baltimore and Lancaster. We're in Detroit and in Toledo, Ohio. So I have colleagues in the Great Lakes offering this program as well. We found that there's a lot of motivating factors that congregations have in common, and really this motivating factor that we've found kind of across the board. And so really creating that connection between faith and stewardship and caring for creation, we found to be a very common theme. Building resilient communities in the face of climate change, and whether that's flooding. I work with the church in West Baltimore that has constantly been ravaged by floods over the years, or if your urban heat island is just astronomically high in your neighborhood because of lack of trees, reducing costs through stormwater bills, and creating safe and peaceful neighborhood green spaces for prayer and reflection. And so really, I would love to talk about native plants today. So Sacred Grounds is, like I said before, it's all about native plants and creating wildlife habitat and using your environmental ethic as faith-filled people to make it all possible. So a native plant is a species that naturally evolved in a given region over thousands of years. They have co-evolved with our plant, or with other plants and animals, especially insects and caterpillars specifically. And so native plants are so important, and it's really when you're thinking about creating wildlife habitat, Doug Tallamy, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, really says that you should be planting and gardening for the caterpillars, which I just absolutely love that visualization, and really thinking about creating a strong and connected ecosystem and food web. But some other reasons to plant natives: we build resilient communities in the face of climate change. We're improving water quality, increasing pollinator habitat. They're aesthetically pleasing, they're very beautiful. Reduce local flooding, quality and access to nature, which then impacts public health, and also just that equitable access and being able to get into nature in the city. Native plants versus turf grass. So one of the huge differences, there's many, but between turf grass and even non-native invasive plants is the root system. So here you can see this graph of all of the root systems of native plants. They are far more extensive and tap way deeper into the soil, so they're able to absorb more water, and that's why they're used in rain gardens and in bioretentions. And they're really able to absorb that runoff rather than it flowing to storm drains or picking up pollution on its way to the bay. And this idea that small scale habitats can make a big difference for people and wildlife. I can't, say this enough. Even the beauty of Sacred Grounds is the scale. So if you're planting in containers, or if you have, 1,000 square foot bioretention, or if you've transformed your lawn into a pollinator meadow, there's animals and people will benefit no matter what. We have our monarch butterfly, which is an iconic species. They're young. The caterpillars feed exclusively on milkweed or Asclepias family. So it's really important to be thinking about host plants. But that's another time. Trees obviously are huge. And so even if you don't have the capacity to maintain a pollinator garden, doing a tree planting on your ground is also a lower maintenance and but also super beneficial project to do. So you can see that there's 473 species of butterflies and moths that I'm not sure exactly what tree that is. I want to say it's an oak tree, but there's about 400 species that use the use the oak tree as a host to lay their eggs.
It's a white oak, it says that.
What was that?
It says white oak tree.
White oak tree. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, I've got my little bar in the way. My cat's joining me. Get down. Come on. So a white oak tree can support 473 species of insects, whereas a common urban landscaping tree, the ginkgo, which is non-native, can support 2. And we have a great resource, the Native Plant Finder, which we've partnered with Doug Tallamy and University of Delaware. And it goes through like kind of essentially ranking the most beneficial plants for your region in terms of host plants. Another reason to really think about planting for the caterpillars and choosing host plants, the black-capped chickadee, which is native to our region. So same with the Carolina chickadee. Their nestlings, their single clutch will consume between 6,000 and 9,000 caterpillars before they leave the nest. So it's just thinking that's one clutch. So, and they have about 6 or 7, I believe, on average. So chickadees alone need so many caterpillars. So we've been working with Shweta and Lisa in Wilmington and in Newark so far. And as you can see here, I'm also doing programming in Baltimore, Lancaster, and Washington. But in Delaware, we're working with IPL, Delaware Nature Society, which is our state affiliate, and DCH, Delaware Center for Horticulture. And we are actively fundraising and searching for grants to really be able to offer a deeper programmatic dive into the city. And that's my PowerPoint for you. And I will stop sharing. And I realized that I didn't change my colleague's name is on the last slide. That's not Manya. I'm Natalie. I'll be on and we'll be able to answer any questions later on. I have, Shweta, would you like me to share the website real quick? Or how are we doing on time?
If you want to take like a couple minutes to quickly show the website.
It'll just be super quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So we have a website, of course. So Sacred Grounds, we have Navigating Through COVID-19 Guidelines and Tips. That's a great resource for folks as we're starting to hopefully see the light at the end of the very dark and long COVID tunnel. But so we have all of these tabs to designate a site. So you create your wildlife habitat, you install your garden, you engage your congregation in your community, and it's a really simple online application. We just ask you some questions and you can upload photos, and then you are a designated community or a designated sacred ground site. We have a tab that has ideas and recommendations for engaging both your congregation and reaching beyond. So this is a really great resource as you're thinking of ways to engage your community and to really get volunteers to help plant the garden and maintain it. And then this is more of a coming soon. It's still in Latin, but it will be launched soon. We have a toolkit. So we'll have a clickable interactive site where you can get more resources and literature on native plants, rain gardens, nature play spaces, the Garden for Wildlife certification, maintenance advice, and tips on community engagement. And so this is nwf.org/sacred grounds, and you'll be able to find lots of information. And that's me. So thank you all for listening. And
thank you so much, Natalie. Yeah, Natalie is our a partner at NWF, and we're just so fortunate to be working together on this program. So thank you so much for your presentation. And now I would like to invite Reverend Shada Sullivan from Church of the Holy City, share a few words about about sacred grounds.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Really nice to be here with you. So yeah, I'm Reverend Shada Sullivan. I'm the pastor at the Church of the Holy City in Wilmington. And, I'm sure you'll hear more about it from Shweta. We've been working in partnership with St. Stephen's Lutheran Church on a Sacred Grounds project in Wilmington. And so she asked me to share some of our vision of that today. And it will involve, we have a backyard to our church, which is a really lucky thing in an urban environment to have. And our vision is to be able to remake that space in a way that extends the sacred space of our church, of our religious building, out into nature and into the world. And there's lots of ways that that could look, and it'll have lots of elements that Natalie just told us about. And that vision is still evolving as we go. And so part of what I felt like was important for me to articulate today was really more the theological vision that, that this whole thing is a partnership between faith and sustainability movements. And as a pastor, I'm anchored in, the theological mission. So I thought I'd say a little something about that. So I know I'm not the first pastor to tell a group of people that the word religion has its roots come from the word to reconnect. And I feel like that is something that is really important in this context. I think in the history of religious movements, there have been some that work to create separations between things, whether that's separation between people in a sinful, broken world, separations between movements that we like and we don't like, or even separations between what we believe and what we don't believe. But when religious movements take that on as an ethos, I think that can be, it can bring about challenging and difficult and effects. We other each other and we other the earth. And so the tradition that I represent, which is the Swedenborgian tradition of Christianity, one of the main tenets of our faith is that any practice of religion really needs to be connected to our everyday life. That it's not just something we can visit one day a week at church. On a Sunday, it needs to be brought home or to work or into our family lives, right? And not in an intrusive and dogmatic way, but in an integrated way, right? It becomes the lens through which we see the world. And obviously that includes, I think, how we see the earth and how we understand our relationship to the earth. And I do believe that churches can be a really, really powerful place for people to reconnect to the earth, to use that original meaning of the word of what religion is all about. To remember that spirit enlivens everything that there is. And that is like so easy to forget, right? When we get caught up in our schedules and our plans and our goals and our ambitions, it can be important to slow down and appreciate that the divine design permeates everything we see, and to recognize then our place within that divine design and the responsibility that comes along with that, right? And so I think churches can be an important place to anchor ourselves in the cycles of the places that we're in, and that can become really, really grounding. But just to make another point that relates to the sense of reconnection again, it is important to come into these sacred, beautiful spaces and feel renewed, right? We love that about our sacred spaces. But I think what we're going for here in these kinds of programs and these kinds of movements is that we don't go somewhere to reconnect and then leave and disconnect, right? We're going to reconnect and then carry that connection with us into our lives. And this is what I see Sacred Grounds trying to do, right? That we go into these places that we understand to be sacred. We extend that sacredness into the world. We reconnect with that sacredness in the world, and then we continue to carry it out into all of our realms that we go to, our own homes and our workspaces and wherever else we are, right? And our eyes are remade to see what is true about God's presence in the world. And I think churches can be a really powerful nexus point for talking about this reality, and then also educating people, giving them ideas and ways to take that knowledge out and reconnect in all of their own spaces. And so I feel really passionate about using churches as a place to basically reconnect with our sense of place and with our place in the cycle of all of the earth's beauty, and basically also in a way to erase the boundaries of what is inside and outside the church. And I think that I think Sacred Grounds is a really awesome way to think about doing that. So I'm super excited to be involved and really can't wait to see how it turns out. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Shada. That was beautiful. And we really need more of our faith leaders to get involved. And, you know, our pastors, our faith leaders have the power to influence and to inspire so many congregants. So thank you so much for your partnership. It's really valuable for us. And now I would like to invite Reverend Jason Churchill from St. Stephen's Lutheran. Here you are.
Thank you, Shada, and thank you, Shada. Pastor Shada and Holy City are just diagonal from us, from St. Stephen's, and we've been neighbors for 100 years at least now, I think. And it's just so exciting to be working with our neighbor in this, and to share something that we hold so precious to ourselves. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the second account of creation in the Hebrew scriptures. That's the second story that we get, where it says, "Then the Lord God formed human, or Ha'adam, from the dust or the soil of the ground, and breathed into its nostrils the breath of life. And the earth worker became a living being." Earth worker is one of my favorite translations for what was made in that story. Some of our older translations will use the word man, but earth worker is far more friendly to the original language and intent of this idea that the one created from the earth is also responsible for caring for and tilling and working the earth. When we touch the soil, we are literally touching the substance of which God made us from. And to restore our theology in such a way to see such a relationship with our earth is, I think, one of the most monumental and important tasks of both pastors and churches right now, but also of congregations to teach their communities. And we struggle particularly in urban settings, because even when you're blessed with a yard like Holy City, you cannot deny the fact that you're in the city. You just stand in their yard and you have to shout to hear one another because of the traffic. You see the life whipping around you there. We're set back a block from from Pennsylvania Avenue, and we actually had nature attacking our building. We had to remove 2 trees as they started to grow into our building and literally shift our foundation. So we now have an open space where our plan is to create a park, a park for our neighbors, for our congregation to sit in, to enjoy the outdoors while still being within their urban life. We have businesses around us, apartments where there aren't yards. So to give people access to land, to be able to touch the earth, to enjoy the flowers and the plants of our native area here, to see what it looks like when you start restoring native habitat, and seeing the birds and the insects that belong here thriving in areas that were once either desolate or used as ornamental gardens there. If any of you are familiar with St. Stephen's, it's quite a beautiful building, but it really takes seriously this idea of one of the favorite Lutheran hymns, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." We mistakened it, and I think we changed the words to "A Mighty Fortress is Our Church." We are a stone and brick footprint on the corner of 13th and Broome. And our hope is through sacred grounds to become embraced by creation, to become embraced by God's created world around us. You know, we can't, and we're not going to remove our building and uplift all the brick, but we can begin to reintroduce nature into our little space and to create a place for people to almost experience what restorative justice looks like when we look at it from an environmental view. The ELCA has, and I will put this link in the chat. One of the things that the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America really likes to do is to make these things called social statements. I suppose the closest comparison would be when the Pope sits in his throne and makes a proclamation. This is probably the closest you have of the Lutheran Church making proclamations of some sort or another. And the Caring for Creation's statement is, I want to say it's from before the turn of the century. So it's from the 1990s. But the basis of it, the introduction of it, states that caring for creation expresses a call to pursue justice for creation through active participation, through solidarity, through sufficiency and sustainability. And it states that the commitments of the ELCA to pursue this wholeness of creation, this idea of restoration, and expressing our life and our place through our individual and communal actions. So it goes about trying to say we try to do this both communally as a church, but also as individuals. But if the churches don't take a lead, if the houses of worship of any denomination or any faith do not really take the lead, then the folks that are coming into those places aren't getting a fuller picture of God and who God is. I also serve as our interfaith and ecumenical officer for our synod in Delaware, and I can confidently say every faith that I have interacted with outside of the Abrahamic faiths, the Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all the others outside of that as well, we all hold this idea that God wants us to preserve and protect and to love the world in which we live. We were given a great responsibility. And to be able to say that with our siblings that are Hindu or Buddhist or Sikh or Baha'i, to be able to talk with people outside of our faith tradition about a common belief is incredible, absolutely incredible. And to see what the possibilities of that can do for our world. So I think that's something that we're super excited about. And to be able to do this with Holy City, with a denomination that has a relationship historically with the Lutheran Church, we are cousins in so many ways. And to be able to restore a relationship is incredibly important. And if we can do it in our own little tiny world, why can't we do it in the bigger world? And I think that's sort of our excitement to be able to see this happening within our communities.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Jason. That was really, really well said. And thank you for touching on the interfaith part of it. And Henry, as you mentioned, our outreach, we make sure that, we are reaching out to all different faith groups. We are very intentional about our outreach for, to include diverse communities and including all different faith groups as well. So we are very intentional about that. And now I would like to invite our next guest, and they're a team, Linda and Becca from Good Shepherd's Garden, and they are going to share their story. When I first heard them talk about their garden, I was blown away. So I can't wait for you all to hear about it. And they told me that, they are happy to share their story and teach what they learned on their gardens to, teach it to other people. And, DIPL can provide them with that platform to reach out to other congregations. And, so far we've touched that sacred grounds for pollinator part of it, but there's other aspect of, how Sacred Grounds program can combat food insecurity in places like Wilmington, or in Sussex County, or low-income communities where we have food deserts for miles and there are no grocery stores for fresh produce. And you can imagine if a handful of congregations can come together and give their land for a community garden project where people can actually grow food and tackle that food insecurity problem. So Linda and Becca and their church is a shining example for that. So I will just now invite them to share their story now.
Can everybody see that? I unmute. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, great.
Yes.
So hi, I'm Linda Almanis. I'm one of the coordinators of the Shepherd's Garden, and Becca Galino is there as well. She's our other coordinator. And we're going to share the story of how we got here. This is a view into our Shepherd's Garden as it stood last year in the middle of the pandemic. And it's really become a place of peace, beauty, and works really well to provide food. In fact, you heard from Pastor Jason. He is the church where the food pantry is that we donate. So his food pantry that has gone on for I don't know how many years, we donate twice a week during the height of the growing season to the clients that are served in Wilmington. So Lutheran Church of Good Shepherd is a 60-year-old congregation. We're in North Wilmington, which is not in the city itself. So we're more the suburbs of Wilmington. But we've had a strong history of supporting our community partners. Over the years, though, as I'm sure many of you experienced, the financial support for agencies changed from their partner churches for many reasons. And direct service became more of a way to support the missions. And Good Shepherd, we looked around and we said, we have abundant land resources. We sit on 4 acres of land, and we have a lot of volunteers in our congregation who are passionate about making a difference. And we have been into food ministries and hunger, serving underserved populations for many years. So we took the next step and said, what can we do next? So our dream began. We looked out at our land, which is right down here. This is what we had to start with, kind of a blank slate full of grass that is just mowed. So
4 orange flags. Point to the flags, Linda.
There we go. These little flags.
1, 2.
1, 2, 3. I don't know where the 4th is.
I don't know where the other 4, but that was that was the outline. That was our big dream right there.
Right. So we had Lutheran Community Services, which supports the St. Stephen's Food Pantry, is a longtime partner of ours. They came to us and said, or they came to all their partner churches and said, we've lost the ability to get fresh fruits and vegetables in the volume that we had before. And could you plant a strip for LCS was the tagline. So we did that, but then we said, can we do something more? So we started with our land and the dream. The dream can't grow without water. One of the most important things we did was put in this water line. We had a wonderful congregational person who runs I don't know how I did that. Runs a
you made it
lawn service.
Yeah, company.
Whoops, oh my goodness, now I've messed it all up.
You're okay. and they said that they would do that for us. So it was really amazing.
Yeah, hold
when
on.
they-
Let me go back because I don't know how to make it small again. Let me share again. Oh my God. Oh goodness. Oh, now it's all messed up. Hold on a second. We've had technical problems tonight in other places. We will fix this up. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Becca, you can keep talking while she
Okay.
figures that
So,
out.
yeah, so we had a church member that was so gracious and so great, and they got us the water from the church over to the garden. And so that first year, it was a gold award Girl Scout project, and we got a grant, and we built these 3 beds. And so this was our year 1, 2017, and we got the little mini grant. The Delaware Department of Agriculture gave us $1,000, and then the Newcastle County Conservatory District matching grant $1,000. And we accepted donated plants and supplies, and we built 3 4x16 raised beds. And you can see here we had a fence around it and some container gardens, and that was a great year. We had 670 pounds, and so you can see here we are planting, here we are weighing in the kitchen in the middle, and then that's my daughter, that she's got her gold award, and then here they are down at the food pantry with all of those cherry tomatoes that we got all these free plants and so many cherry tomatoes. We learned a lesson with those that first year. So yeah, so then the next year we got funding again from Delaware, Maryland Synod. The ELCA Creation Care Team gave us $1,700. So we added 4 more beds, moved the fences again, and then we did 775 pounds that year. And you can see in the center, we had like a harvest party where we invited everyone and had pizzas, and it was really fun. And we had a lot of kids in the garden helping us to harvest. And so that was fun. So we had 7 beds, and we felt really good about ourselves. And then the next year,
we said, wow, what's next? I just want to point out this lady down here in the corner. She is one of the clients at the food pantry, and she loved to talk about vegetables and learn how to use them. So that was just such a joy. We also, as you can see from our pictures, we love to invite the kids from the congregation in. They love to harvest. This little boy over here likes to deliver. It was such a, it's so neat to see the kids out there learning about gardening, learning about the earth, and taking care of it. So it's been just such a magical place for that. We went into year 3, and Becca and I said, we're at the limit of what we could do as a church. 7 beds that are 4x16 is equivalent to like 14 quote unquote normal raised beds, which are usually 4x8. So we took a little field trip to a church in Pennsylvania, looked at their community garden and said, wow, we can do that. So we reached out once again to the Delaware, Maryland Synod of the ELCA. They had a Hunger Task Force mini grants available, and we received $3,000. And then we asked our church for some money from the memorial funds. That's a fund we have when somebody passes away, people make donations, and it goes for something substantial. So we invited 2 Boy Scouts into this and for their Eagle Scout awards at this point. And we built 12 4x8 raised beds, 3 waist high raised beds. Those were for accessibility for people who either for mobility reasons or not bending or just wanting to garden up at a waist high level. We built a donation cart, a 3-bin composting station, and then we advertised for gardeners. Actually, we advertised for gardeners before any of this was built because we were going to build all this and hope that it produced what we wanted. We were fully subscribed within the first 2 weeks that we advertised. And we asked for $20 per bed per season, and that the people donate 10% of their harvest to the pantry. So here's some pictures from that. up here, you can see the community garden where is in the background. These are the original beds. And then through this fence over here, these are the 3 accessible beds. And then there was 12 more in-ground beds. This is our donation cart, which all good ideas you steal from somebody else. We saw that at the church where we visited. And it's a place where we invite not only our community gardeners to drop off food, but also we advertise out into our immediate neighborhood for anybody who's a gardener in their backyard. Once they've given all the tomatoes and zucchinis that they can give to their neighbors away, we say, give them to us and we will take them to the food pantry. And here's another view of the gardens right before we put the fences up and people planted. And one of our Eagle Scout awards, he built a 3-bin composting station. This year was amazing. So basically we doubled the area of our garden. The church side of the 7 beds, we produced like 1,100 pounds. These community gardeners were asked to give 10%. So doing the math, that would be like, 110 pounds. They actually donated 900 pounds that year to bring us up to over 1 ton of food donated to the food pantry. And we were just blown away. There was a lot of generosity. The people wanted to do more. And we talked to them. They loved coming out to the garden. This was in 2019. We did harvest parties where the community would come in, the church members would come out. In these harvest parties, we bake pizzas, flatbread pizzas using the garden vegetables. It just became a place to be. And it was just really exciting. So we said, wow, what more can we do? Our community gardeners said, we love this. And we looked out and we said, we have a little bit more land out there. So maybe we can do it one more time. So we went back to the grant writing and wrote it to the First State Resource and Conservation District. They gave us $500. And the Good Shepherd Endowment gave us a grant of $1,500. And with that, we were able to add 15 more beds. And if you are doing the math on the years, this is 2020, which we all know, pandemic started in March. That was right when our Eagle Scout that was going to do his project here was going to start building. We shut down, but he was very resourceful and planned his project to do it in a socially distanced manner in family pods building it, and we were able to get it done. And you can see right here, we have our favorite drone shot of our garden as it stood. This was in, I think, June last year. And these were the church beds here. And these are all the community garden beds. And here's our compost station, picnic table. It's such a beautiful, peaceful space, which in 2020, having a place to be outdoors where you could be outside, do something useful, support the community, it was a blessing. So what did we do? We donated 2,900 pounds, almost 3,000 pounds went to the food pantry. And not only that, we support, at the height of the season, we were delivering to 4 different pantries because we had so much and we didn't want it to go to waste. So we really felt with our gardeners that we were a place of hope in what we knew was a world of fear at that time. And it was amazing. These gardeners come from near and far. We have waiting lists for getting a bed. It's just unexplainable how wonderful that place is and how people have connected with it. And
we just have a few members from our church are gardeners. I think like maybe 4, and all the rest are from the community, which is really great.
And so they're our community too.
Mm-hmm.
They may never cross our threshold, but they're part of our community. And I can't remember what the next slide is. Oh, for the next year. But what we did in 2020, that donation cart from before, right here, when everything shut down in March, we said, wow, what could we do with that? So that space gave us a place to become a community drop-off point for the St. Stephen's Food Pantry for other items. So for 40 straight weeks, we collected once a week, and we collected pantry staples. We collected cleaning supplies. If you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, if you could get wipes, how fortunate you felt. People would donate wipes so that we could hand them out.
People
to
made
the
masks,
clients.
donated masks. Those were some of the first masks I ever saw, where people were bringing masks to the cart. And it was amazing. So that was 40
And-
weeks, and all kinds of people brought stuff. It was
And
amazing.
people, yeah, we advertised it on social media, on our next door, which is like the local Facebook. And people would say, are you going to be here next week? What do you need? Is there anything specific? And they came and they came and they came, and it was amazing. So the garden became another space like that. So that's what we did in the pandemic. Go for year 5, Becca.
Well, so this year we the Newcastle County Urban Farming Grant came back around. We can apply for that every 3 years. So we were like, let's apply again. And then we got $1,250 from the endowment grant from our church. And so we were able to get a shed. And when we got the $2,000, we were able to add 4 additional beds that were behind the shed. There was like a perfect little spot for them. And so we just put those in last Saturday. This was all last Saturday. And we got electricity out to the shed. It's very exciting. And yeah, so that's what we did last weekend. So yeah, so now we have 34 community beds, all completely sold out and booked, and growing, well, almost growing things. And yeah, so that was that.
So come out and see them on Thursday for the
Thursday,
tour.
yeah. We've been working.
We do have things growing, and it's really great to see. And I keep saying that we're not going to expand anymore, but much to my husband's surprise, we always find a place to put more beds in. He's one of our chief bed builders. So each year we add a few more. So what we found in faith-based gardening, one is to have a mission. So our mission is to supply fresh vegetables to an underserved population. Different community gardens have different missions. Some are teaching gardens, some are children's gardens. There's just so many characteristics of gardens. It doesn't always have to be the same thing, but this was ours, and we try to stay true to what our mission is. But we did find these other benefits. It doesn't mean other good things can't come from it. It's a great stewardship of our resources, as we've been talking about tonight. It's an intergenerational ministry. This is one of our oldest garden. Actually, it is our oldest garden. She's 90 years old, and she's out in the garden having a good time. And you saw the kids; they love it. So we love that. Gardeners love to share stories and to share with the children. So it really does bring many generations together. We have a community church connection with the community gardeners, Boy Scout, Girl Scout projects you heard about. We connect with local businesses. We try to support them. We've invited schools in. We've had numerous work days where
National Honor Society.
National Honor Society comes out. Some of our 12-step programs that meet in our church have come out recently as a way to give back. We kept open during the pandemic for those 12-step programs, and that's really expanded. And for these last 2 weekend work days, we've had big crews out, and they want to come back. It's just an awesome feeling to know that they helped and they liked it, and everybody wants to come back. And this has become a focal point for our congregation. We are now known as a community, as a church with a garden. So that's kind of neat. And we introduced our new community to the joy of serving. Like I said, our community gardeners graciously gave more than the 10%, and they always want to do more. And they ask what else they can do. Some have connected with doing other service associated either with giving down to the food pantry or other ways they've connected. So it's been just a reciprocal relationship with the community gardeners. with the wider community, and we've kept true to our mission of supplying fresh vegetables. Becca, you want to go over our greatest hits?
Yes, this is really, these are such simple things, but it really does make a difference when you start any community garden like this. We think it's like, you just know your community and your mission, know what you're dealing with and what you want to do. You have to have a clear objective. And then again, we mentioned that water source, that's so important. And start small. I mean, we were so overwhelmed with those 3 beds that first year. It is almost like funny to look back at these pictures now, because, now we don't even think anything of it. But if you just started with all of that, you would have just cried, but you just get used to it, and always plan for easy crops and plan. For us, we need to take what people want to eat when we get it to the food pantry. And that's really important for us, that they're going to enjoy the food that we take down there. And then we always use a weed cloth on our beds, just to keep weeds down and to keep it a little bit easier. So we ask our community gardeners to use that. We don't make them, but most of them do use it. And we try to have as many fun things at the garden as we can, just to celebrate and get to know everybody, as much as we can at the garden. And it is fun. You see these gardeners and you talk about, things that no one else really wants to talk to you about when you go deep in gardening, so it's really fun. It's been really great.
Yeah. And this is one of our gentlemen from the church. He's delivering the vegetables, and there's nothing better than coming down there with a load of vegetables, and people want to talk about it, and they're like, oh, what did you bring for us today? And it's just appreciated every which way. We appreciate everything that goes on there. This year too, we put in a little shepherd's library, because why not? We're trying to make this a space. And then what happened? Oh, well, wait, you get to see this first before we go on to the next thing. We've talked about that. Here's our video. That's our favorite video. We can watch that over and over on an endless loop. We love that, and we'll have to get a new one this year, because we're always changing.
Yep.
So then we kind of started thinking, wait, what else can we do? And we're working on becoming a sacred ground, because we had more space, and you'll see some pictures in a minute. We want to create a healthy environmental plan for our land, model that for others around us in our congregation and in our neighborhood. So we have our goals are to grow food, be a home for pollinators and wildlife. We're using native species now in our future plantings. We have a tree planting coming up. We received a grant for that, and those are all going to be native species going in, and eventually we'll be taking out the non-natives. We have areas where we encourage outdoor worship and education, and we wanted to create an area for prayers, meditation, and yoga, and be visually pleasing. We're always about that. Last year in 2020, we asked the RC&D, the Resource Council and Development team, for a grant. They gave us $1,000, and once again, the Delaware, Maryland Senate, the Creation Care team, gave us $400. This grant for the trees came in this year, but we created a meadow area, and this is on the further end down from the garden, and we created a meadow area with all natural plantings, native plantings. COVID slowed us down a little bit, because we had a great plan for planting over 1,000 native plants. We had a team, we were going to do it, our little augers ready to go. and then we shut down. So we did it in a slower way, but we have milkweed out there. We are a monarch waste station. We are been certified by the National Wildlife Federation as a wildlife habitat, and just peaceful. Those chairs are very peaceful. People sit out there. We know that people go out there because during the summer, they were always moved in different positions, 6 feet apart. And it was just kind of cool. So we're working on integrating this plan all together into this sacred grounds, into that. So that's how we became connected with the Delaware IPL, because we've done the garden, we did the meadow, and now it's like, let's think about it more as an integrated space. So
And
that's
Shada
where
have been huge cheerleaders of ours, and we appreciate all their energy and effort and encouragement that they have given us. So, and we're so happy to be here tonight to share it with you guys. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was wonderful. And I'm sure a lot of you agree. So now we can open this floor for questions. If you have any questions, please bring them on. Come on, guys, no questions for Becca or Linda or about
I have
sacred
one.
ground?
What makes a meadow different from just, it kind of just look like a green lawn with some tall plants? So what is a meadow exactly?
So a meadow always has distinctive edges and a path through it. And you let where the path is not, it grows up, and you don't cut that at all, and you just let it grow.
And you could actually establish a meadow in 2 or 3 different ways. One is you could kill the grass and plant everything, which didn't sound really friendly to us. They said, oh, we took a class from, it was at University of Delaware, and they said, kill the grass, use Roundup. And we're like, I don't think so.
Or you can burn it. I really had to talk Linda down from that. She wanted to burn it. Or you can just let it grow. That's what we've chosen, to just let it grow, and whatever comes up, comes up. And we have planted other, like milkweed and other natives in there.
Yeah, so we're kind of half and half between doing all plantings and letting it grow.
Yeah.
So and it's always changing. So it'll change and establish itself and become what it wants to be, no matter what you plant.
Yeah.
So do you mow at the end of the year?
We did this year, and we kind of regretted it because we think that this year we're going to have them raise the blades up much higher when they do it, and we might wait until February or March this year. So it is an experiment out there for sure.
No, they don't exactly mow. They do a much higher thing.
Yeah,
but we think we were too young to mow it down. We could have lived this year without mowing it down, and we would have got maybe more regrowth of our plants.
We need
But we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, we need like a
We have one, but it's a big area.
So, and honestly, the people that cut our grass have been so awesome about the meadow. They are really patient with us, and we show them everything we want, and they have been great. They really have embraced it. It's been fun working with them on the meadow. So you didn't know you were going to get to know the people that cut the grass at your church, but you do. And they gave us like 200 tomato plant seeds the other day. It was so funny. They're like, did you get the seeds? And we're like, wow, 200 tomato seeds. Yeah. So anyway, so it's been amazing like that. You get to know people you didn't think you would know. So.
And what makes something a native plant?
A native.
And if
A native plant. Okay. A native plant is something that was growing here before Europeans settled in the land. If I hope I said that right for the people who are more educated. But as far as I understand, they're the plants that were growing here before Europeans came.
And they support more insects than non-native species.
Who has their hand raised up there? Ruth Ann.
Yes. I'm just in love with this project. I'm feeling really inspired. I do have a question about starting a community garden when it's of a community, a geographic community that has many people of different worldviews and faith backgrounds. Maybe not super diverse, but diverse enough. And if you really want to have a community garden that brings people together across very diverse backgrounds, that's different than having a community garden in one faith-based location where it's that faith group that comes together. So I'm curious, has anybody had an experience where faith traditions were encouraged to come together around a common garden in one area, like 5 churches working on one garden? That's my question. Has anybody ever heard of this or seen an example of it?
I can speak just briefly about, we're starting a climate conversation between First Unitarian and Good Shepherd and St. Mark's, just starting to talk about what kind of things we've learned and what kind of things we're doing and what kind, and I'm sure we'll move towards what we can do together as well. That's what we appreciate about the climate conversation process.
Yeah.
And I think too that in our garden, if you heard Becca say, most of our community gardeners are not from our faith tradition.
Oh.
They're not members of our church.
Yeah.
We have, there's a diversity there. So it's the common goal is the care for the earth and serving people, which goes across, as Jason said, all the faith traditions.
I've stopped by 3 times since we met for our planning meeting, just to be there. Nobody else is around. It's been very peaceful.
Good, yes.
Oh man, I wish you would have been there Saturday when we had 30 people working in the garden.
I could have helped.
Yeah.
I would like to add that we are going to have a tour of the garden. So if any of you would like to visit, it's on Earth Day, April 22nd, 11 to noon. Pack a picnic, come visit the garden, and then we all can chat about plants.
Yeah.
It's going to be windy too, right? Bring heavy sandwiches.
It will be a little bit chilly. Bring a chair if you're coming so that we can all sit socially distanced.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a nice place to be. I see Lisa Locke asked, do you think the garden has attracted new members? New members to the church, I assume was what the question is. We treat all of our gardeners as members of our community. We define our church community as broader than our building. So I'm not sure anybody has joined the church from the garden, but they consider this part of their home with everything that they do in their service. They consider it some faith parts. We met a new gardener this past weekend and she doesn't come to our church. She named where she went. She goes, but I like this. I like this active work out in front of the church, helping people. She goes, so who knows what'll happen? So
it just occurs to me that this is such a practical challenge for congregations these days, I think, is retaining membership. And that projects like this I would think, can attract new members and especially young families that see these kinds of things going on, and this raising up environmental stewardship can be something that could serve that purpose.
Yeah. Nancy Sathoff, are you still here, Nancy?
And I see Jason's hand up too.
Yeah.
So
I'm here. There's Nancy.
Okay, Nancy is one of our new members to our church and to our garden. Do you have any view on what you saw when you first joined, or what you first started coming to Good Shepherd? Maybe to answer some of what Lisa was saying?
Well, interestingly enough, to answer what Lisa was saying, there is a person who's becoming a member of the church because she likes the whole concept of the garden and the feeding, and that's Diane, who is my daughter-in-law's mother. So Lisa, she would be an example of someone who saw what Good Shepherd is doing and said, wow, that's the church for me. They actually do things and not just say they're going to do things.
Right.
So it does bring people, I think.
Thank you. And this is our tree steward who's learning all about trees so that we can do our native tree planting in the fall.
So feel free to contact me if you have tree questions.
I
You're an expert.
follow up on something that Linda said, but on what Lisa was saying, and Linda, you actually hit, I think, part of it with referring to it as your community. I think one of the serious questions is what defines a member of a church. We used to define it by who sits in a pew on a Sunday and puts a little envelope in the plate. But and as time goes on, you asked about the age of the pantry. I think we have written records about 40 to 50 years ago, but people are saying it was there before that.
Wow.
But not until Good Shepherd came along did we have a consistent flow of fresh produce in that pantry. And of that last tonnage of produce, I have to say, today I was working on a grant to refurbish our kitchen to be able to take produce, prepare it and freeze it immediately so that it's available in the fall, in the winter. And I thought, well, what better way to get a grant to say, look how much is wasted, look how much we have to throw away. And I asked the question and they said, well, really none. It's usually all gone before it goes bad. So unfortunately, I can't put that in a grant proposal to help with enticing people to help with that. But how cool is that of over a ton of produce that doesn't go to waste when all we hear about is restaurant food waste, cafe food waste, go in the back of any grocery store, and it is heartbreaking to see the amount of food that's wasted. And yet, because of what I think Becca was saying, you pay very close attention to what people want and you plant that. And because of that, you don't have a waste of food. And that's just absolutely wonderful. But one thing we noticed at the pantry is I was introduced as somebody's pastor by a person I never met in my life before. And she's a volunteer in the food pantry on the day that I'm off. And St. Stephen's is her church, even though she's never come to a service or doesn't really know what a Lutheran is, but because that's where she volunteers, that's her church. And I have a sense over time, because somebody has a bed in your garden, you're their church, even though they may not know Pastor Kathy or Pastor Sue very well, or they may not come into the doors of the church, but you're their church. And
it was great on Saturday when we had all the volunteers there, and somebody from AA put a wheelbarrow of soil in this bed, and one of the community gardeners said to her, "Oh, that's my bed. Thanks. Yes, put that in there." And it was just like so cute, like it was as if you would say, like, "That's my kid. Yes, that's great. Thank you." It was just, I was like, oh my goodness, it was just a little fun moment for me, And so yeah, it's amazing,
One of the things that you accomplished, that you quietly did it, you asked them to give 10%. You said they gave even more.
Oh, so much more.
You've already got them doing God's work in your community, even though they don't come to church.
And
that's what you got to focus on. We get caught up in church and not doing God's work.
Yes,
yeah, they're doing God's work.
The donation part, Linda and I will be there, and we'll say, you could just give us your food, just give us what you're donating. And they never want to give it to us. They always go over to the donation cart and they lay it out really beautifully in those donation baskets. And it's like an offering. And we hate to disrupt it, but we have to go and weigh it and put it in the fridge. But it's so interesting to see that they never want to hand it to us. They always want to. It's so amazing. Yeah, it really is.
But I work with youth, and one of the things that it's a maturity to be willing to give, to be comfortable to give, and know you're going to be okay after you give, because we're taught to hoard, and it's in that giving that we become alive as a community. So what you created there, when I saw that 10%, and then you said they gave more, our church is trying to do something in this area too. And I'm like, okay, we got lots to learn from you. So we thank you for sharing. And no, I
Thank
mean,
you.
Oh, nice, thank
none
you.
of us know how to do it. We get there by trying and making mistakes, and then we borrow good ideas from one person, make our new mistake.
That's what we do. We
That's
take
life.
any good idea, and Becca and I are by no means experts on this. We fully give credit. There's community gardeners in there who have 50, 60 years of experience gardening. We're like, you guys are the experts. We're here, and we'd love to learn from people. I think that's part of it.
Are you learning anything? Are any of your community gardeners growing things that are culturally different than what we would have grown locally, that you're learning new things about different?
Oh yeah.
We have one
We
gardener.
have one guy who he brings in all sorts of Asian squash and things. He puts little signs when we do a tour. We did a tour, was that in 2019? I get my years confused now, but we can't even identify what it is. So he puts up pictures and explains what it
They're
is.
real, like long and bumpy, and
Yeah, they're just crazy
just look so
looking.
different. And he gets seeds off of the internet, like seeds that are, what are they, like going extinct or something? Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of, he'll grow.
Exchange? Yeah.
Yes, and he'll grow these corn, and yeah, it's really great. He's a great guy, and he's such a big help at the garden and knows so much. So yeah.
So that
All right. So I would like to interrupt where, close to 7:30, and I don't want to hold people back, but thank you so much for joining us. What a great discussion and great presentations. Thank you for your inspiring work, Becca and Linda. You're such an inspiration. And that's the role DIPL wants to play, is bring faith communities together, share each other's work. What are we good at? Like, can we share it with others? We don't want to reinvent the wheel when you've gotten that process down. Can we learn from you and apply that same knowledge, with another house of worship? And so DIPL is here to help. If you're interested in, community garden, if you're interested in sacred grounds, you can definitely get in touch with us. We are at the top of hour. And please don't forget to join us for the tour. We'd love to have you for the tour of the garden on April 22nd at 11, between 11 to 12. Stop by. We'd love to see you. And before we go, Ruth Ann would like to play the video, a minute's video again, to close us with a great. It's a minute-long video, so hope you all can stay back.
Etta, can you mention the climate conversation on Monday?
Oh, sure, Lisa, go ahead. Please make that announcement. We have a really exciting event coming up, and Lisa can talk more about that. I hope you can join us for that as well.
So most of you are familiar with our Climate Conversations program, which is just a way of bringing people together in candid, open, respectful settings to talk about climate and related issues. And next Monday, we are welcoming Jacqueline Patterson, who is the Senior Director of Environmental and Climate Justice for the NAACP. And so she's going to be our special guest. And then other co-sponsors are the Southern Delaware Alliance for Racial Justice and the Delaware Intercampus Climate Coalition, students from around the state, as well as Energize Delaware. So we're really excited about this. And Shweta, can you put a link in there or something? And if anyone's interested, you can sign up. So that's,
yes, I just shared the link in the chat for you to register, and when I follow up with the resources, I will also send you the link again. Ruth Ann, can you make that work?
All right, let me see if I can do this. I'm just learning how to do it. So here we go. Video file. I think it's working. Oops. No. I've never done this before, so I thought I had it. Let's see. Basic. Yeah. Let me try it from here.
Oh,
Can you see where I am? No, I can't do it from
we
here.
see
I'm
it.
sorry. I thought I figured it out. I think
That's
we need a
okay.
technical assistant, everybody.
I have shared the link in the chat if anybody else
Oh.
wanna.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yay. I might be able to show it. Look. This is our forest garden. Can you hear it?
Mm-mm.
No. We can't hear it, Ruth.
Wait a
And
minute. Just a minute. It's very quiet in the beginning.
the audio quality is bad.
Yeah, it's garbled.
Hi, Chief Coker.
That's okay, Ruth. And thanks for trying. And I will
Okay.
send these two videos to everyone. I think
Yeah,
these are
this
wonderful.
is our, we're doing a edible forest garden and restoring the indigenous plants and animals of the forest. And we have tribal community members with student interns from the University of Delaware working together with landscape architects, and we're restoring the freshwater mussels. So we have a grant from Partnership for the Delaware Estuary, and he's saying how important it is to respect all life forms, that when we restore the freshwater mussel to clean our water, then we'll have healthier plants, and we're already attracting more animals. litde.net has articles about our work. Thank you so much for letting me sneak that in there. And I promise that we'll do better very soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Ruth Ann. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We are very grateful for you to give us your time. And please use Delaware Interfaith Power and Light as a resource for, bringing a spotlight to climate change and its solutions. So thank you again for joining us, and we will talk to you soon. Good night.
Good night.